Welcome back to the channel. This is the Earth Science Classroom. This video is on energy production, energy resources, in particular looking at coal and the different types and ranks of coal and how they correspond and relate to different geologic time periods in Earth's history. This video will be discussing coal forests, the Carboniferous period, both Mississippian and Pennsylvanian, the different ranks of coal from peat to lignite up to anthracite, the percent weight of carbon, how it changes, and associating each type of coal with the time period in Earth's history. This is the Earth Science Classroom. Welcome back to the channel. Coal is a sedimentary rock which is formed underground through a process called coalification, which is the addition of pressure and heat like diagenesis and sedimentation, but with the increasing amount of carbon with the longer time it has to form underground. So a coal that's been underground for hundreds of millions of years would have more carbon by percent weight or percent volume than a coal that has been underground for less time, let's say 20 million years. Now, the composition of coal is mostly carbon, between 25% up to 98% by weight, with the addition of other elements such as hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. Sulfur and hydrogen are the next two most abundant elements besides carbon, which is by far the greatest. And we have trace elements of magnesium, silicon, aluminum or aluminium, calcium, and iron. Also, we have the inorganic components, which are mostly minerals of clay, quartz, and pyrite. Also have some small amount of rare earth minerals and rare earth metals included in the coal. Now, coal forms in these beds or layers or seams at certain depths underground. The deeper the coal, the longer it's been forming and the greater the amount of carbon. And we'd also call it a different name based on its rank or grade. So each level of carbon would have its associated coal name. For example, anthracite coal has the highest carbon by weight, between 86% to 97%. Then we have bituminous, which is a large range, between 45 and 86%. Sub-bituminous, which is 35 to 45% by weight of carbon. Lignite, which is the lowest level or grade of coal, which is 25 to 35% weight of carbon. Then we have peat. Now, peat is the initial starting point and formation of coal, and everything starts with peat, where you have that accumulation of decomposing and dead plant material, organic material, that has been deposited on the surface of the earth in swampy conditions called coal forests, which were abundant around 300 to 200 million years ago during the time of Pangaea, the supercontinent, and these coal forests would have abundant vegetation and organic material and matter that when it died and decayed and was deposited and layered up on the Earth's surface, that burial and time took its toll on these layers of peat, and peat would be the foundation whereby the other ranks or grades of coal would form from if the conditions stay the same, whereby burial, increase in temperature, increase in pressure would create the process of coalification, eventually over the course of 300 million years forming anthracite coal with the highest percent weight of carbon. Now, a fine little side note, I've always called it bituminous coal and sub-bituminous based on how I was taught in England from my geology teacher, both in the high school or secondary school systems and college. However, I know that it is pronounced bituminous. However, I always felt that the bituminous was a little more funny, but yes, bituminous is the correct way of pronouncing this coal rank or grade. Now, the majority of the coal we find is formed around 300 to 200 million years ago during the Paleozoic era, which contains the Carboniferous, which is very famous, based on the geographic location in England, based on the first scientific investigation and discovery of this age of rock, according to geologic time, and the corresponding coal seams or beds that were found in these particular rock strata. This length of time or period of time in geologic time called the Carboniferous, is where most of those coal forests resided, creating the abundance of vegetation and plant material to form peat, which then forms coal. Now, in the States, the Carboniferous period is divided into two subsystems. First, the older Mississippian, which lasted from 359 million years ago to 323 million years ago, and the younger or newer or more recent Pennsylvanian, which lasted from 323 million years ago to 298 million years ago. Now, these are divided into two different sections of the Carboniferous because of the environments that they existed in. Mississippian was more of a epicontinental coastline, more marine environment and shallow seas where more limestone was formed. And then we had the Pennsylvanian, where you have the drop in sea level, which turned more terrestrial, and you had more coal-bearing forests, and coal forests produced that abundance of vegetation to form peat and coal eventually. So we can link up the age of the coal based on geologic time and the amount of carbon based on how long that coal bed has been underground and undergoing these physical and chemical changes called coalification to increase the carbon, squeeze out the other elements, and produce ever-increasing purity of carbon within this sedimentary rock, eventually ending up over the course of over 300 million years with anthracite with extremely high percent weight of coal, up to 97%. Beyond that, you'd actually make graphite and diamond with more than 97%, up to 100% carbon. In conclusion, the rank or grade of the coal is correspondent to the length of time it has been forming for in the Earth's crust as a coal seam, as it makes its transition from peat into lignite, then sub-bituminous, then bituminous, and then finally anthracite coal with the highest amount of carbon per weight, between 86 to 97%, which corresponds to the oldest time period in geologic time in regards to forming coal, which is all within the Phanerozoic Eon, looking at the Paleozoic era, and more particular the Carboniferous period, Permian period, Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, then moving into the more recent Paleogene, which includes the Eocene, Oligocene, and Miocene, and finally into the Quaternary and part of the Cenozoic, the Pleistocene epoch, which is less than 2.58 million years ago. This is the Earth Science Classroom. Thank you for watching the video. I really appreciate it. And if you get a chance to like and subscribe, that stuff really helps the channel. Thank you so much. And see you again in a future video.